Anybody that has decided to spend time and money growing a garden knows that you're not going to usually save any money if you decide just to grow a garden. These are all peanuts that I grew, but I had to buy these grow bags, I had to buy some of the dirt, and I had to buy these peanut seeds this year for trying something new. But today I'm going to show you 6 fruits that are finally been planted long enough that are making me some money and not requiring a lot of work and producing, so basically saving me money. So we're going to start with number 1 right here, and these are my Concord grapes, planted 3 years ago, and as you can see, I am getting grapes. Some of the clusters aren't very big, and some of the clusters are getting fairly decent sized, but I've got a whole bunch of clusters through here, and I haven't had to do anything to this plant this year. I've only put a little bit of fertilizer on it this spring, and I'm starting to get lots of grapes. So grapes aren't that expensive this time of year, but just being able to finally have something that's coming back year after year without taking a lot of work and producing a fruit year after year, just like some of these other fruits I've planted, has really been beneficial. I also have a Neptune grape, and these, unlike the Concord grapes that I just showed you, have no seeds. So I like the Concord grapes, except the seeded part makes it a little hard just to pick and eat. So we actually visited a grape farm, and they had a lot of varieties of grapes. And we decided we really liked these Neptune grapes. So I was able to find these online, and I ordered these from Fast Growing Trees, and then I've planted these just a year ago. And as you can see, we've already got huge clusters, and there's even more clusters in there. So grapes have been a great addition to my backyard, and they're growing really well here, and these are full sun, and it is hot. We're hitting that summertime where it's 90 degrees every day. But I just keep watering them, and these have been growing in the last year very fast, and they're just taking over all up and down this trellis. Number 2 on my list of perennials is blueberries. Being that I have kids, we go through tons of blueberries. And just like the grapes, this time of year blueberries aren't going to save me a ton of money by buying them. However, I'm getting enough to fill about a quart every couple days when they start really producing. We're just getting to the point now where I'm getting blueberries, and I've still got a few of them that are going to produce throughout the summer. But I've got multiple varieties so that during the summer, I've got blueberries for a good amount of June and July. And with blueberries, you can make blueberry muffins. You can do so much with all of these. I haven't had to do much with these either. I'm just kind of watering them and giving them fertilizer, and they're just going to keep producing. I do trim them up a little bit so that they stay a good, decent size for me to be able to harvest them and to cut off some of the dead branches. But these aren't taking a lot of work, and I'm getting lots of blueberries. Plus, the kids love coming out here and just picking blueberries all summer long. So blueberries are another great thing. It's taken these about 4 years to be fully developed that I have right now, and they're just covered in blueberries. The third plant that I grow that comes back every year is also in the grape category, but I'm going to put it by itself because it is a hybrid. It is a muscadine. And so this is a hybrid of a muscadine, which grows very well in the southern heat, and a grape. So muscadines have seeds, and they have very thick skins. If you've ever had one, they're really good, they're really sweet, but it takes a little bit of work to be able to eat it. And so this is a hybrid. So it tastes sweet like a grape, but it has no seed, and it does not have the thick skin, and it turns a good reddish purple. It's very good to eat, but they do not grow very big. So these will grow a little bit bigger than this, but I've been able to get about a whole handful every day last year. So this year I expect to get a lot more, and it has completely taken over this trellis that we have in our backyard. And there are tons of clusters of muscadines up there. So we're really excited about this year on how many muscadines we're going to get. Number 4 on my list, of course, is the blackberry. We have got huge blackberries. They just take off over on the side of this house. But the blackberries almost take zero work. What I do is I just cut off the cane from this year, and you can see next year's cane already growing. And then I'll cut off the one we just used, and then the new growth will have next year's berries. So it doesn't take a lot of work. It's very easy to figure out. You don't have to really prune much. You just cut off the cane from the year before. But as you can see, we're getting huge berries. We picked a whole bowl of berries just the other day. And so now we've still got tons of berries. There are red berries that will become blackberries pretty soon. So we're still producing, and we're getting into the middle of summer now with all of this heat. Also, You have the raspberries, which we've picked off most of the raspberries, it looks like right now. There's still some down here. And then the raspberry is also part of my fourth group of plants that are producing every year without a lot of work. So the blackberries and the raspberries are kind of together. I've planted together and they grow really well. Raspberries are just good because you can always eat them. And so raspberries and blackberries, another great thing to plant because you don't have to do a lot of work. They come back every year. And we've got tons of flowers for more raspberries throughout the summer. And fifth of my list on garden plants that are producing every year are strawberries. I planted these about a year ago. I have June-bearing strawberries and I have ever-bearing strawberries. The June-bearing strawberries produce pretty large strawberries in the beginning of May, and they'll produce another crop probably beginning of July, middle of July. And I have ever-bearing strawberries, which will produce all summer long once we hit about 12 hours of sunlight. So these produced a lot in May, and then they kind of stopped, and now they're coming back around, and I have a whole nother crop of strawberries. And when they came out in May, a quart of strawberries was about $5, and I was getting a whole quart just from my garden every day. So I was easily getting $20 worth of strawberries during the week. And I didn't spend too much to plant all of these. I planted these as bare root strawberries, which means it was just the roots into this raised garden bed, and that cost me about $30 for 25 plants. And then I planted all of these. I do take a little bit of work. I got to come through and pull out some of the grass and some of the runners on the strawberries. But strawberries are a great thing to plant because my kids also just love strawberries. The ever-bearing ones will not be as big during the summer. So as you can see, I've got a bunch right here. But they're pretty easy to keep growing. I just watered them in fertilizer. So I'm not having to buy plants every year. I'm not having to do too much to spend a lot of money to keep these coming back. So I really like these plants that are coming back every year. And number 6 on my list is what I'm most excited about was lemons. I got about 10 lemons off of just this tree last year. I have 2 lemon trees and 2 lime trees. And these lemons will be ready probably around Christmas. But one of the cool things about lemons is when they turn yellow, they'll just stay as good as long as you leave them on the tree. So we had a whole bunch and we had them all through the winter. And people would come over and to see how cool it is to have a lemon tree inside full of nice yellow lemons. So this is a green lemon that's not ready yet, but give it 3 or 4 more months, it'll start to turn yellow, and then around Christmas in the fall, we'll have some lemons that we can just pick off when we need them. So having these gives us something growing in the off season because everything else is not growing during the winter, but we do bring these inside and they grow great inside. I do have one bonus plant, but it hasn't produced yet. I did get little ones this year, but they all fell off, and this is a kiwi plant. I actually have 3 kiwi plants, 2 female and a male, and they're supposed to be growing kiwis probably in the next couple of years. They said it would take 2 or 3 years, and I planted these, I think 4 years ago. This year I did have little kiwis, but they fell off. And so I've seen that with some of my other plants. The first year when they're getting really close, it'll produce flowers, it'll produce the fruit, then they'll fall off, and then the next year they will grow. So I'm hoping next year this will all be full of kiwis. And then we will have kiwis to add to our list of fruits that are coming back every year. So I'm trying to add more to my garden that will come back every year that I don't have to plant and I don't have to work around. So it's actually a few days later now, and some of the Concord grapes that I showed you are starting to turn purple, which is awesome. So those are some of the perennials I have planted over the last few years, and they're starting to get to the point where they're just producing without me having to do a lot of work. It was basically a one-time purchase for these plants that I've put into the ground, and now they're producing and not costing me a lot of money each year, just a little bit and some fertilizer, maybe some water, but they're just gonna keep coming back by themselves every year. So these should last me another 10, 15 years, who knows, for quite a while that I'll be producing fruit that I can grow in my backyard. So I still grow my potatoes, I still grow my sweet potatoes, I still grow my tomatoes and my cantaloupe, stuff that will come back every year. So just one day we were able to come out and get some blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries.